Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. Now, The Eyes of the Dragon was published in 1987, and Stephen King wrote this book actually for his 13-year-old daughter, or at least I believe his daughter was 13 at the time he wrote this. But basically, his daughter wanted him to write a fairy tale, basically. She wanted him to write something that was completely different than the books he was writing at the time, because at the time, Stephen King was primarily known for his horror novels, so his daughter wanted him to write a fairy tale. So he wrote this book, and even though this actually is quite different than a lot of his other books, this still features a character who fans of Stephen King would recognize, and that character, of course, is Randall Flagg, who was the main villain of The Stand, and is one of the main villains of the Dark Tower series. This is actually set in Midworld, which is the universe that the Dark Tower series takes place in, but I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be set years and years before the actual events of the Dark Tower series, so in some ways this could almost be considered a prequel to the Dark Tower series. But the whole book is basically told by an unnamed narrator. Like, it's being told by a narrator, but the narrator is like an actual character because he's actually refers to himself at some points. But basically, the book is set in a kingdom known as Delane, which is located in Midworld, which of course is the universe that the Dark Tower series takes place in. And there's also characters in this book, not just Randall Flagg, but there are some characters in this book who do make appearances later on in the Dark Tower series. Like, in this book, they briefly mention a witch named Risha, who is a major character in the fourth Dark Tower book, Wizard and Glass. But basically, like I said, it's set in a kingdom known as Delane, which is ruled by a man named Roland, who I'm pretty sure has no relation to the character of Roland Deschain from the Dark Tower series, but basically, King Roland, he's not really a bad king, but he's not a great king either. Like, he's not a cruel person at all, but at the same time, he's not a very intelligent person, and he's easily manipulated, and the man who easily manipulates him is his advisor. Basically, King Roland's advisor is a wizard named Flagg, who we know is actually Randall Flagg. Basically, it turns out that for years, Flagg has been, like, really, like, controlling Roland in a way, and so, what happens is Roland has these two sons, Peter and Thomas. What happens is Peter is a very intelligent boy, and he's the firstborn, so he's the one who most definitely would be the king after Roland dies. So he's like a very intelligent boy, he's very strong, and and Roland almost idolizes him, basically. And his brother Thomas, who's younger than him, is very, very jealous of Peter. What happens is Flagg is actually afraid of Peter because Flagg knows that Peter will one day be the king, and he knows that Peter would not be easy to control like Roland was. What happens is Flagg ends up poisoning Roland, but he manages to pin the crime on Peter. So Peter is arrested and is sent away basically to spend the rest of his life in this tower. So what happens is Flagg ends up making Thomas, Peter's younger brother, the king of Delane. Now, Thomas is not a bad boy at all. Like, he's not a bad person, but he's like his father. He's very easily manipulated. He's not very intelligent. And basically, Flagg is using Thomas because Flagg wants to plunge the entire kingdom of Delane into chaos. So basically, he's using Thomas as almost like his pawn, basically. Like, basically, he tells Thomas to put more to raise the taxes on the people in Delane, and like, and basically, like, during Thomas's reign as king, basically there's many people are being executed now and being accused of being traitors, and basically it's all part of Flag's plan to send the kingdom of Delane into chaos. But what happens is Peter eventually figures out what Flag has actually done, because it turns out that Flag has been coming to the kingdom for hundreds and hundreds of years, and like many tragedies that have happened in the kingdom, it turns out were actually Flag's work. So now Peter plans to escape from the tower he's been locked up in, so he can stop Flag and claim his rightful place as king. Basically, that's the synopsis of the story. Now, I thought this was a pretty good book. You know, definitely, like, if you're a fan of the Dark Tower series, I would definitely recommend reading it, because this is kind of a prequel to the Dark Tower series, but, you know, but at the same time, it's also a very self-contained story. Like, you can easily read this without having to read the Dark Tower series. But although I do recommend reading the Dark Tower series, because those books are freaking great. But, you know, this is a good book. I definitely would recommend it. You know, so yeah, that's my review on The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King, and bye.